It is Thursday. Happy Cinco de Mayo. This is Jaguars Happy Hour. And now, a woman who's willing to be a sideline reporter at your football game, or wedding, or birthday, or arraignment hearing, Ashlyn Sullivan.
Is it so bad that I work hard and ask for opportunities and now everyone wants to give me crap about it?
I like it.
Thank you, Jeff. It's going to get me somewhere someday.
Hey, look, the more reps you can get, Ashlyn, then you're a perfect example of take every opportunity you can get.
Even weddings. So, yes, you can call me. Thank you, Joe. Welcome to the Jaguars
Did I hear an
Happy Hour.
arraignment hearing in there, too?
Come on. Like, give me a break. Gosh.
That might be one of your best, Joe. I got to say, that was
Really?
pretty good. Yeah, that was good.
All right. High praise. Don't give him any more ammo. He loves this.
Oh,
Especially when I'm hosting.
He likes to be talked about.
He says it brings me a humble nature.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
He loves to bring me down, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Welcome into Jaguars Happy Hour, 1010XL, Jaguars.com, Jaguars YouTube. JP Shattuck told me to say all of these things that Happy Hour is on. JP is on a very much well-earned vacation. He has earned it after draft coverage, and Jeff, we have a lot to talk about today.
We do. It was, 1 week ago today
Yeah.
that the draft was kicked off, and Travon Walker was the first overall pick of the draft. So the draft always represents hope.
Really does.
And for a franchise that has had difficulty as this franchise has, this is the time of year that you like to have hope restored because you have all these prospects coming in, and that's the beauty of the draft. For years, it was the only thing that teams had to look forward to improving with. I mean, can you imagine that, not having free agency? Like back in the day, there used to be no free agency, and so the draft represented the only hope at getting better.
Yeah, the Jaguars certainly need free agency, especially on the offensive side of the ball. And that leads us to what's coming up on Jaguars Happy Hour. It's a draft recap, 5 out of 7 draft picks on the defensive side. So we'll talk all about that and what this defense is going to look like. Moving over to offense, Cam Robinson got a contract extension this week. What does that mean for the offensive line, and how good do we feel about it? Outside linebacker coach Bill Shuey will be joining us here in the studio in a matter of minutes. Going to talk to him a lot about that number 1 overall pick, Travon Walker, that's for sure. Breaking news again this week. The Denver Broncos and the Jacksonville Jaguars will be playing in London Halloween weekend this season. Very cool matchup between Russell Wilson and Trevor Lawrence. And finally, we go around the NFL, and let's go back to recapping the NFL draft. 5 out of 7 players drafted on defense, like we said, and a very happy Mike Caldwell this week, that's for sure, defensive coordinator. And Coach Peterson said, yeah, this 3-4, it's going to be fun to scheme against.
When I scheme defense, the 3-4 becomes a little bit of a challenge to go up against. It becomes a little harder to run the football. It becomes some protection issues. And so for me, that's, as the head coach, that's what I want on defense. I want complexity. I want complexity, but at the same time, it's simple for the players to learn, if that makes sense. And so I wanted that for our defense and guys that have had success. I mean, he just came off of a world championship in Tampa, and he's seen it at a high level. He's worked under some really good coordinators, Todd Bowles, Jim Johnson. He played for the late Jim Johnson and guys like that. So, for me, it was an easy plug and play with Mike to come in and start that process.
That was head coach Doug Peterson on this defense and what it'll look like as they start to scheme now that they have the personnel set in place. 5 additions on the draft on defense. Mike Caldwell was a giddy man going down the hallway, as he should be.
Well, I think it's interesting in that sometimes I think we all can get a little ahead of it sometimes. So sometimes you got to kind of slow down and say, okay, what can they do? Because they did add a lot of different pieces in the draft with Travon Walker and Devin Lloyd, Chad Mumo, and then those 3 guys on defense out of the first 4 picks that they had. And these guys are expected to be starters in some capacity. Luke Fortner and Connor on offense, expected to be contributors on offense, maybe in some capacity. But obviously when you have 3 out of the top 4 picks on the defensive side of the ball and you didn't expend a ton of resources in free agency on that side of the ball, this is where the improvement is expected from. And Coach Peterson talked about complexity and trying to be multiple and do different things on defense, and that's great. And that's I think what you would like to be down the road. because at first you need to do a couple things. One, you need to install a completely new defense. So you can't get overly complex. And then you need to find out, most importantly, what these two players do best. And you're not going to find that out. I mean, you got a pretty good idea from watching them on college film. Mm-hmm. But in a lot of cases, once you get to the National Football League level, because it's a different game, you actually have to see them do it before you can trust it as a coach, before you say, okay, we can put him in position X to do X because we've seen him do that. And so that's, I think, going to take some time. And with young players, sometimes you get there, sometimes you don't. And so I think it's going to be an interesting process, because it's always a process when you're talking about the young players being inserted into the lineup.
Yeah, and a plan is great, but we always hear, hey, we have to execute that plan. And we'll ask Bill Shuey, this outside linebackers coach, but all the talk is, okay, Travon Walker's so versatile, that's so great in college, but now you want to get him good at one position. And everyone's asking, okay, well, what's that position going to be? What's that fit?
Well, it was interesting to me watching all the pressers after the pick, mm-hmm. and then the press conference when Travon Walker was introduced to Jacksonville, and you had Trent Baalke and Doug Peterson up there at the podium with them. And so you're listening. You're trying to search for key words of what they say. You know, is he going to be in a 2-point stance? Is he going to have his hand in the ground? Is he going to be a defensive end? Is he going to be an outside linebacker? And it was interesting in that I thought that I heard Trent say, 2-point stance. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then I heard Travon Walker asked about what he thinks he does best, and he said 5 technique. Okay, well, 5 technique is in a 3-point stance, and that's not a 2-point stance. So I think it's going to be interesting to see where home is going to be for him. I think he can be very good at a lot of different positions. And is he a lot of people say, well, why do you want somebody who may take time to develop? Well, the reality is that you're looking and projecting a player no matter what you do, whether the player is considered safe or not. Mm-hmm. You're projecting everything. You're trying to figure out where he's going to be and what he can be. And with Walker, I don't think it's any different. Now, early on, I think you're going to want to make sure that you get him comfortable in one position. And then once he gets comfortable in one position, then you say, okay, let's open up some more things for him to do, because we know that he can do it because he did it at Georgia. Right.
And everyone's saying, do you feel as though, like, yes, he can do all of these things, but say we try him at that one position and he's really good at it, do you just leave him there and don't bother with it?
Well, you can, but I mean, first of all, the one thing I will say, Ashlyn, about the picks, and especially Travon Walker and Lloyd, these two guys are top-end individuals. There's no arguing that. That's not a debate. We can debate where they should have been picked and how good they're going to be and how good they were at their respective colleges, but the reality is these are A-plus people. And so you always have a chance when you have A-plus people. And that's the most important thing. Good families, good background. And now that you bring somebody in, okay, let's get them comfortable. And then the more hardworking, the more dedicated they are, the better the person is. I think the more complexities or the more things you can ask them to do, mm-hmm. because they're dedicated to their craft. And I think that's something that's been a little bit different than we've seen here in the past.
You aren't wrong.
And I'm not trying to be a jerk, but I mean, under previous years, we have seen some players that have come in here that have probably not been properly vetted.
Yeah.
And when you're picking somebody with of that magnitude, when I say the magnitude, when you're picking somebody high, you want to make sure that they're number one quality people first. And I think that Trent Baalke put a premium, Doug Peterson put a premium on this, mm-hmm. in this draft, because from everything that I have read, everything that I have heard, these are top-end individuals.
Yes, we had them in the building Friday and Saturday, and they were fantastic. So easy to work with. Their families were great. So, yeah, that's always – they're always great because they're so excited. But you definitely can sense what a person's like that first day, and they were both so awesome. And you mentioned Devin Lloyd. Trent Baalke on Sirius XM Radio explained why they traded up to get that Devin Lloyd.
Devin was way up on our board. We felt he was one of the top 15 players in the draft. And, we were having a little bit of trouble getting back in, but I can't remember. I think at pick 23 is when we decided, actually it was 22, I believe, when Quay Walker went off the board. We just didn't feel that Devin was going to make it to 33. And we felt if we needed to get back in, if we didn't get back in, we were going to have to go another direction. Really didn't want to go another direction, so did what we could to get up in there.
Trent Baalke told us in his post-draft presser that they were a little worried about the New England Patriots with the 21st pick, and once Lloyd got past that, all it took was just looking at Doug Peterson, and Doug said, yeah, let's do it. And I love that.
You bring up the Patriots, and then what did the Patriots do? They drafted a guard from some small school, and everybody's
passed on
like,
Devin Lloyd.
what did they do?
And that's why Trent said, let's go, hurry up.
Yeah, so I really like the selection of Lloyd. When you watch the film on him, he can do anything that any linebacker can do. He can be a run stuffer. He can be an athletic blitzer. He can cover. He can run sideline to sideline. He's got great energy. And I think the best thing that I like about him is his leadership. Mm-hmm. When you listen to him talk, you just listen.
Yeah.
And you kind of gravitate towards him, and those are the kind of people that you want. Those are the kind of people that you want in front of the huddle, which linebackers are in front of the huddle. So from that aspect, and what he meant to the program of Utah this past year with some of the things that
Incredible
they went
story.
through, it is pretty amazing. And so kudos to him as an individual, and looking forward to him being a leader.
Yes, another one that seems like a really just great person overall, for sure.
No, you got to have character counts.
Yes,
and
it does.
When you're trying to change a culture, so to speak, and we've heard that term a lot, it takes people of strong character to change culture. And so I think with the first two picks, they've hit it right home.
Totally agree. Home runs coming up on Jaguars Happy Hour. Outside linebackers coach Bill Shuey joins the program. Stay with us here on the Jaguars Digital Network.
Do you know someone whose work in the community deserves the limelight? Nominate them at TIAABank.com/community champion so we can celebrate their impact on equity, education, or the environment. Each champion will enjoy a Jaguars game from VIP field seats, see their story told on the big screens, and receive $1,000 towards their cause. Nominate someone before May 6th. Visit TIAABank.com/community champion for details.
Brooks Rehabilitation is looking for exceptional nurses who want to work where miracles happen. They're hiring for RN, LPN, HHA, and CNA positions across their inpatient, skilled nursing, and home healthcare settings. Brooks nurses serve as leaders, advocates, change agents, and care coordinators for their patients. They offer flexible schedules, career advancements, and continuing education, competitive pay, plus bonuses, shift premiums, and sign-on bonuses. Apply now at brooksrehab.org/nurse careers.
At most sandwich places, asking for more of something is just part of the drill. But what if you never had to ask for more? What if more was just a given? At Daly's, more is what our sandwiches are built on. More meat, more cheese, more veggies, more quality, more taste. All for a price that's anything but more. Sandwiches from Dash, made fresh. Daly's.
Thank you, America, for making Ford F-Series the best-selling trucks for the 45th straight year. And it's no wonder when you have an F-150 with best-in-class payload and Super Duty with best-in-class horsepower, you know that F-Series is not only built for America, they're built for you. Get to your local Ford dealer, check out the entire lineup, and you'll see why the #1 truck in America for 45 straight years can only be Ford F-Series. Best-selling claim based on 1977 to 2021 calendar year sales.
Hi folks, Frank Frangie here to tell you where to find the most authentic Southern pit barbecue in all of Jacksonville. That's right, Bono's. For 72 years, Bono's has been smoking real pit barbecue right here on the First Coast. Smoked for hours, served in minutes, and always cut to order. You can find Bono's locations all around town and on game day at TIAA Bank Field. Bono's is the official barbecue of the Jacksonville Jaguars. If you want great barbecue, head to Bono's today. If you don't see a pit, it ain't legit.
Your family isn't like anyone else's. Your home shouldn't be either. At Dreamfinders Homes, you can build the home of your dreams in one of their 30-plus communities in Northeast Florida. Choose from luxury single-family homes or maintenance-free townhomes from the 300s. Dreamfinders specializes in homes built to fit your lifestyle. To find out more, call 904 431-0006 or visit dreamfindershomes.com.
The station that the Jaguars listen to, 1010XL. Home of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
A live look at the new football facility. It is crazy how much this has changed. Even in a week, I swear I leave the building every day and something else is going up. This is moving really quickly, and everyone is excited, especially coaches, and especially this coach, outside linebacker coach Bill Shuey, joins us now on Jaguars Happy Hour on 1010XL and Jaguars.com. Coach, thanks for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Yeah, and that football facility, we're excited about that, right?
We are. We're very excited about the football facility. You're right, the progress is happening fast, never fast enough, but we are excited. It's good to see the guys out there working.
Mm-hmm.
So you talk about exciting times. You come in, you're a new coach in Jacksonville, and you get a couple picks that are pretty high in the draft. That's got to be pretty exciting.
Yeah, it's very exciting. Must be living right, you know. But we're excited. Excited to have the new guys come in. You know, obviously you got a couple weeks here until they can come in. So, but we're looking forward to that here in a few weeks. Get them on the field and get them acclimated with the team.
I think one of the questions that I've gotten asked the most since the draft has happened is, Jeff, where do you see Travon Walker lining up at? And my honest answer is I don't know. And that's my question to you is, where do you see him lining up? I mean, you got 2 first-round picks. One of them was a linebacker. The other one played so many different positions. That seems to be the question of the last week.
Am I allowed to answer? I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, but as he mentioned, I think he mentioned it, that, you know, we're going to try to let him settle into one spot. And then from there, obviously, the versatility is important. It's part of the reason why we drafted him, and we're going to try to utilize that to our advantage at some point in time. But, you know, early on, we want him to be able to get comfortable and get into one spot, and he'll start at outside linebacker, and then we'll move from there. And Coach Caldwell's, you know, he's got a lot of plans as we move forward, but, you know, out of the gate, he'll be an outside linebacker.
Coach Caldwell is very excited about this draft. I talked to him. He was like giddy talking about the 5 picks he got. And you mentioned that outside linebacker. So say Travon Walker kills it and he's really good at an outside linebacker. Is that it? Does he stay there, and that versatility, we might not see all of it?
No, I think at some point in time, again, I don't want to speak for Mike, but at some point in time, I would guess that we're going to use every ounce of versatility that he has. I mean, but it's all going to be in due time, and part of that's going to be on him. The faster he gets acclimated, the more we can kind of spread things out for him and put him in matchup situations that might be to his advantage. Until then, it's going to come down to the mental grind of the game and of the position, and learning the fundamentals of playing on the edge on a regular basis. And, you know, as soon as he can get up to speed on that, the more we can kind of utilize his versatility.
The draft process is so much more involved than what it was 20 years ago, to where you have combine interviews, you have players coming into your building to talk to them. And I'm sure that you guys took advantage with both of these opportunities with your 2 first-round picks. Because when you sit there and you look at what I was talking about before we went to a break, before you came on, about character counts, and these 2 guys, these seem to be 2 individuals that I'm sure you're looking very much forward to having the ability to coach.
Yeah, so they're very, you know, the guy, from what I know about Devin, which I don't know him as well, because Coach Gilbert, he's got versatility as well, and that's going to be a key. We have a bunch of guys on this defense, not just the 2 young guys. You know, you think about Smoot, you think about Arden Key, amongst others, but the versatility is going to be interesting for Coach Caldwell, how he's going to move guys around and make it hard for offenses to try to ID people and know who might be coming, who might not be coming, and pressure situations and those type of things. But from Travon's standpoint, you know, the character was an important thing, you know, but there was this draft was loaded in the edge position. The guys I talked to, there were a lot of really good character guys. I mean, that was something. That's part of what I enjoy about making the trip to Indy and talking with the guys. You get to know a bunch of the players. You go to pro days and you kind of get a relationship started with some guys, and then at that point it may stop, and you might just see him before the game or after a game or whatever it might be. In other cases, like Travon, he gets drafted here, and now I get to, you know, allow that relationship to grow deeper in the trust part. But you want to get started with that as soon as possible. And he seems like a very high character guy, a humble guy, confident though, humble but confident, and a guy that it seems really willing and eager to get to work.
That's a very good balance, humble and confident, not arrogant, right?
Exactly.
Exactly.
No arrogance.
Yeah,
You mentioned the combine, and it was interesting. General Manager Trent Baalke kept mentioning it in his press conferences how the coaches were so involved in this pre-draft process. So, how were you involved besides the combine in all of this?
Yeah, I believe he used the word transparent a lot as well.
Yes, very much.
You know, and the process. You had a lot of people involved in the process, and so. You know, I've been coaching for a long time, and you know, I've been blessed to have many years in the NFL. This is my third NFL team, and this was a very transparent process. And you know, there were many meetings, many conversations, and so you know, I felt involved in the process, and you know, it doesn't mean that decisions are always easy, but it was good to see everybody kind of come together on their thoughts. Didn't mean that it was always, you know, it's good when you have healthy debate sometimes. But then as the process goes on, it's good when you have healthy debates and then everybody gets on the same page. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was good with the procedure here, and Trent led that off with Doug and Mike, and you know, I thought it was a very good process.
There's so many different pieces that make a puzzle, and what we're talking about here is the new pieces, but there's pieces that are already here, and you've had the opportunity to talk and to work with some of these guys already. What are some of the impressions that have been made upon you with the guys that are here?
Yeah, the guys that are here are very eager to get going. You can tell. You know, it's been a couple rough seasons down here, and it's not something that's kind of swept under the rug. Like, it's out in the open. Guys talk about it. They're using it, I think, as fuel, as motivation. They're open to new ideas. I think they also understand, like, one of the things we try to get accomplished in the outside back room is I'm looking for their ideas. I want their thoughts. I want them to challenge some things. You know, trust is earned over time. You know, trust is going to be earned when they're taught something and the success shows up on the field based off of those techniques, fundamentals, the scheme. So that back and forth that we have in the room, you know, these are grown men. They're young men, but they're grown men. It's good to have that dialogue. You know, the flip side of that is when you're talking a bunch, you know, sometimes the efficiency of the meetings go down because you're back and forth a lot. So at the end of the day, there's a chain of command. But I think the dialogue's healthy. I think it's good when they're talking because they're asking questions. And you probably know, like, the best defenses that I've ever been around are the ones that are usually most vocal.
Mm-hmm. And how important was it for this pre-draft process and this draft as a whole to get Josh Allen some help?
Yeah, well, you can never have enough or too many good players.
Yep.
And I think that's what's great, you know, from this draft, adding a guy like Travon. We'll have an undrafted free agent added to the room, and you already have talented guys like Josh there, and Josh is working hard. Caleb is working hard. You have Jordan in there, and then Jameer in the outside back room. We've had Smoot moving around a little bit, Arden Key moving around. You got guys been moving around, so all that stuff is good. And iron sharpens iron. And the more you can create competition within your own building, whether it's by position group, within the position group, from position group to position group, within the defense, between the offense and the defense, as long as everybody's moving in the same direction, I think it's a positive.
Talk about the relationship that you have with Doug Peterson. There's a little familiarity going back a few years, isn't there?
Yeah, so I was a young intern when Doug was signed by Philadelphia, so I started my first internship in Philly was in 1999. So I interned. Doug was the quarterback there, which he probably doesn't remember me at that time, but I remember him coming in. And then you know, I was afforded some opportunities. I worked hard. Afforded some opportunities by Coach Reed in Philadelphia to stay there for 10 years. And through those 10 years, I had a couple different jobs and moved around and just continued to work with some really, really good coaches. Learned a lot. One was Mike Caldwell. Mm-hmm. But Doug also was one of those coaches that came in after he retired, went into coaching, and then got into the NFL. And so Doug was coaching on offense when I was coaching on defense there for a couple years, and we overlapped.
It's funny, everyone says when he first got hired, everyone's like, you're going to love this guy. He's such a good guy. But he really is a breath of fresh air in this building, and everyone says how relatable he is. And it's funny, I was walking down the hallway the other day, and he's talking to Brandon Sheriff about turkey hunting. And it's just like, he's just such a normal person who's just a really good football coach, it seems.
Well, it's great to be a good football coach. It's important to have good people around, and that's part of the culture. and that was part of the high character guys that we drafted. And you hear those themes, and the world is round and it's cyclical, and good people, good coaches, good players, hopefully good results. And that's the thought process, with a lot of hard work in between, and some of that back and forth that we talked about too. And iron sharpens iron, but you got to be able to stretch and pull and grind and sweat and all that other stuff that goes into being a good football team.
Yeah.
Okay, so iron sharpens iron, but boy, the weather certainly does make it feel a lot better when you're doing all of that. So last year you were in Chicago, right, as a coach, and now you got your family down here in Florida and Jacksonville. They got to be loving it.
Yeah, obviously the weather's great, and the one thing Coach Townsend and I, who were in Chicago last year, as well as Chris Jackson was in Chicago, and Coach Townsend and I were saying that the one thing we're not going to do this year is complain about the heat. So you can hold me to that.
Just wait till
I'm
August.
sure. I know that's going to be
wait.
the case. I know I'm naive by saying that, but after being in Chicago, and I love Chicago. It's a great city and a great team. I love the players there and everything. But
great restaurants too. By the way.
Great restaurants, great food, just like Philadelphia, by the way. And everything. But we're looking forward. The family is looking forward to a fresh start. I'm looking forward to a fresh start. There's good people down here on the staff, and so we're excited. And the palm trees and the beach always help too.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask you about that heat thing again about the end of August.
I know it. That's okay.
It's terrible times. You're gonna hate it. It's so hot.
Yeah, it gets hot for a while. Once you get into September, you're so used to that fall, that hint of fall. It ain't happening in September.
No, it's really not.
About October, it's going to happen.
All right. Well,
we
that's
all
good.
get
That's good
through
advice.
it together. Yes, we make it work somehow, some way. Coach Shuey, thank you so much for joining us on Jaguars Happy Hour.
No problem. Thanks for having me. It's nice to be here.
Absolutely. Much more to come here on the Jaguars Digital Network.
Your family isn't like anyone else's. Your home shouldn't be either. At Dreamfinders Homes, you can build the home of your dreams in one of their 30-plus communities in Northeast Florida. Choose from luxury single-family homes or maintenance-free townhomes from the 300s. Dreamfinders specializes in homes built to fit your lifestyle. To find out more, call 904-431-0006 or visit dreamfindershomes.com.
Are you suffering from shoulder pain? If you have clicking and popping in the shoulder joint, persistent pain that intensifies with use, an inability to lift your arm over your head, or a tingling, burning sensation in the shoulder, elbow, or wrist, waiting to see a doctor could make your injury worse. Baptist Health and Jacksonville Orthopedic Institute have innovative and effective treatment options available right now to relieve your pain and restore your mobility. Don't wait. Call 904-JOI-2000.
Do you know someone whose work in the community deserves the limelight? Nominate them at TIAABank.com/community champion so we can celebrate their impact on equity, education, or the environment. Each champion will enjoy a Jaguars game from VIP field seats, see their story told on the big screens, and receive $1,000 towards their cause. Nominate someone before May 6th. Visit TIAABank.com/community champion for details.
Jaguars fans are gearing up and saving big at Fanatics.com, the world's largest collection of officially licensed fan gear from all the leagues, teams, and Jaguars players you love. Shop the most trusted brands, exclusive designs by Fanatics, and autographed collectibles from today's biggest stars. Join Fanatics Rewards today and earn fan cash on every purchase. Shop now and get today's special offer. Fanatics.com, officially licensed everything.
Brooks Rehabilitation is looking for exceptional nurses who want to work where miracles happen. They're hiring for RN, LPN, HHA, and CNA positions across their inpatient, skilled nursing, and home healthcare settings. Brooks nurses serve as leaders, advocates, change agents, and care coordinators for their patients. They offer flexible schedules, career advancements, and continuing education, competitive pay, plus bonuses, shift premiums, and sign-on bonuses. Apply now at brooksrehab.org/nurse careers.
Thank you, America, for making Ford F-Series the best-selling trucks for the 45th straight year. And it's no wonder when you have an F-150 with best-in-class payload and Super Duty with best-in-class horsepower, you know that F-Series is not only built for America, they're built for you. Get to your local Ford dealer, check out the entire lineup, and you'll see why the #1 truck in America for 45 straight years can only be Ford F-Series. Best-selling claim based on 1977 to 2021 calendar year sales.
Mike Dempsey and Fat Tony. Jaguars Today. All Jaguars, all NFL, all the time. 10 to noon weekdays on 1010XL.
The Jaguars are future-focused and ready for a new look in 2022. Join us at the bank this season as head coach Doug Peterson and quarterback Trevor Lawrence lead the charge. To lock in your seats, visit jaguars.com/tickets or call 904-633-2000.
The front office and, the coaches kind of wanted to keep, some of the staples around just to kind of build around and kind of, started to form that what we want to ultimately get done here. So, I think it's just a great thing that's keeping guys around that we brought in, kind of homegrown, myself, Josh, and whoever else we decided to keep around.
Left tackle Cam Robinson, a very happy guy this week, getting a contract extension, very well earned. Welcome back to Jaguars Happy Hour on 1010XL and Jaguars.com. Ashlyn, Sullivan, and Jeff Lageman here with you this week. JP Shadrick on a much-earned vacation, and Cam Robinson, big news, Jeff. We saw this coming. It was a work in progress, and we were wondering, okay, what's taking so long? When's it going to happen? Finally happened. You have your guy. You're set. And now there's some key pieces on the offensive line you feel pretty good about.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were kind of curious as to what would happen with Cam and would that impact what the Jaguars do with that first overall pick. And so I said this a couple weeks ago that the starting point for Cam had to be the franchise number this year plus what the expected increase was going to be with the franchise tag next year. That's kind of where you were starting at from a guaranteed money standpoint. And I think it's a fair deal for both sides. When I say that many people were expecting the market to climb much higher for left tackles this offseason, but it really didn't.
Yeah.
With the Armstead deal not being as lucrative, I think that brought some of the reality down for the Cam Robinson contract, and I think it's a good contract for the team.
Yeah.
And it gives them stability as far as, okay, we know who our left tackle now is going to be, and now we have two guys that are going to compete on the right side, and then we'll just figure out how things work out from there. So that's the way you want it, though. You keep hearing coaches, including Bill Shuey, who we just had in the seat right here, talk about iron sharpens iron, and that's when you get more competition in the room. It makes everybody better, and so bringing Cam back, even though many people are like, oh, you just move on, you put Walker Little in at left tackle and go find a right tackle. Well, that's all easier said than done. Sometimes it's better to keep some of the components you got, continue to add to it, allow the competition to work it out.
Yeah, and that was a point that Doug Peterson made to us at the Combine. And he was like, hey, I get the narrative. And I get the narrative is the Jaguars at times don't keep good players. They trade them away or they don't get to that second contract. And he was like, I'm trying to change that narrative. And he talked to us about Cam Robinson and Josh Allen at the Combine. So you're kind of seeing this trend start, like they're recognizing talent and saying, we got to keep it in this building.
Well, and Cam still has to get better.
Yeah.
And, I mean, this is not I don't think he's a finished product. I think he can still get a lot better. I think his technique and some of his fundamentals need to get better. And I think his new offensive line coach is going to be, I think, a big help to him because coaching matters, and the more disciplined the fundamentals and footwork become. Now, to give you an example, Ashlyn, years ago when I was playing defensive end and was a young defensive end, I'll never forget going against an older Mike Ken of the Atlanta Falcons. And Mike was in year 18 or whatever it was. I mean, it was long, it wasn't 18, but it might have been. I mean, he was long, long tooth. And I just remember looking at the physical abilities of Mike at that time saying, I got him.
Yeah.
I got him. But Mike was impeccable about every step that he took was so disciplined and so where it needed to be that his sets and his fundamentals cut off a lot of possibilities for you as a defensive player. Just because he was on point. Not because he was big, fast, strong, tough, because his fundamentals were there. And I think that that's something that Cam needs to strive to get towards because he has the athletic ability. He has the physical makeup. He's a good run blocker. He's tough as nails. but the fundamentals need to get better for him to take that next step. And I think he can take that next step.
Yeah, I think they said that's why they franchise tagged him, is they saw potential and they saw he could get there. So it's definitely interesting. And then they draft Luke Fortner, and it was funny. We had Tyler Shatley on Jaguars Drive Time a couple weeks ago, and Tyler Shatley and I go to the same gym, so we see each other all the time. And every time I see him, he goes, Ashlyn.
You bench press with him and everything?
Yeah, we bench about the same, so
I
we've
figured.
really been training together. And he tells me at the gym, he's like, I'm training because what if a draft pick comes in? And sure enough, Luke Fortner comes right on in. So I'm really curious how that shakes out. I'm pulling for my gym buddy, but Luke Fortner seems to have that upside too.
Well, he's first team All-SEC at the powerhouse University of Kentucky. Okay, former teammates with Josh Allen. The reality is that he's a good football player. I think he's got to work on some things when it comes to getting to that second level. Some of that stuff is not as easy, but a good inline blocker. And I like him. He's got size, but he's got a lot to work on. And it's hard to overcome experience when you're a young player like that. And Tyler Shatley is a good football player. He is a good football player, and he has starting caliber abilities, and he's been around the block. He knows all the tricks of the trade. And by the way, Ashlyn, you're not bench pressing with him because he's one of the strongest guys that there is in the weight room. He is.
Don't underestimate.
He is. Yeah, well, he's one of the strongest guys. Now he's a big, strong guy. So I think it's going to take a little time for Fortner, but again, that's good for the room. Competition is good. Make everybody better.
Yeah, you mentioned competition, and this is a question I had for you with Chad Muma. And I was talking to him, and it stood out how intelligent he is and his communication skills. And he brought up so many examples of when he wore the green dot in different situations. In my head, when I'm talking to him, I'm like, all right, that's your starter. That's your play caller. And then I was talking to John and Brian. They're like, not so fast. I don't know if he's starting right away. So that's another position group where it's really interesting how this is going to shake out.
Yeah, and just to explain the green dot, because some people don't know what that means. In the NFL, a defensive player or an offensive player, if it has a player-to-coach communication set in the helmet, that's what the green dot signifies. So it lets people know that this guy has that communication ability. And so green dot typically for on the defensive side of the ball is a linebacker, and he's the guy that's calling plays in front of the huddle. So he's a leader.
Yeah.
And he can get people lined up. He can handle the added responsibility, and that's what Muma has been in college. He's been a very highly productive player. He's kind of a prototypical linebacker, shoulders square, tough. When he gets there, he knocks people back. I think that was the one thing that really stood out on film with him, is that when he struck people, he's big and strong. Now, when he's big and strong, he's knocking people back, but he's athletic. He can play multiple downs, I think, in the National Football League. I don't think he's a natural blitzer like a Lloyd is, but I think he can be a three-down linebacker. Where he plays at, I think it's going to be interesting as far as where Oluokun is going to be, where Lloyd's going to be, where Muma's going to be, because typically you got – two inside positions,
right.
Okay?
You got three guys.
And then the outside guys, we're talking Josh Allen and a Smoot and a Travon Walker. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how they line up.
It is. And options are a great thing, just like we say, the competition.
And the other thing, look, if he's not starting, then he will be a significant backup and a contributor on special teams, which is a big part of winning.
Yeah, absolutely.
To getting your special teams better.
Mm-hmm. And what do you think of Snoop Connor? This was not an interesting pick because they need help.
He's strong. And that's, he's a guy that doesn't, put it this way, when he gets into the open field, or he sees or you see him get in the open field, what we perceive as the open field. And right there we just saw where he made a defender, number 11, miss. He doesn't do that a lot. A lot of times he is just a power guy. And what I loved most about watching him is that when you hand him the ball and you need a yard or two, he's going to get you a yard or two. And he's a very strong finisher at the goal line, very strong finisher in short yardage. And you have two running backs already in the room that are really good or expected to be good, because ETN still hasn't proven it at the National Football League level because he missed the entirety of his rookie year. We know J-Rob can do it, but both of these guys are coming off significant injuries.
Yeah.
So how is that going to affect them this year? So adding to that room, I think, was going to happen. I didn't know how it would happen. Would it happen as a draft pick or an undrafted free agent? Right. But I'm glad they added to it. And this is a guy that doesn't have a lot of miles. Okay, mileage matters when it comes to running backs. You don't want to have a guy that has 100,000 miles on the odometer.
No.
And hasn't had the oil changes and all the upgrades throughout his existence, and he's getting to you like damaged goods.
Yeah.
This is a guy that was in a rotation, and he's going to be fresh and ready to go.
Yeah, just like my car, just like my Jeep. I don't take it in for oil changes. My dad gets so mad. He's like, oh, my God, it's been 5,000 miles. You don't want that guy.
No, you don't want that guy.
No.
And he's a physical back. And one thing, you always look at a lot of these young players that come out of college and they come into the National Football League, and you say, okay, now they're playing with grown men. I'll never forget when I made the jump from college to pros, and the biggest thing that I noticed was we had some guys that were big physically in college at Virginia, and then you go to the locker room in the National Football League or any locker room and you go, oh, my God. I mean, the best of the best that you had in college are now everywhere in your locker room in the National Football League, and so you expect guys to take some time to continue to develop physically. Okay, this young man, Connor, is walking in the building, and guys are going to go, oh, yeah, he's ready to go.
Yeah.
Physically. Oh, yeah.
That's great to hear.
He's ready to go.
Exciting draft, 5 out of 7 defense, but some key contributions on offense as well when we come back on Jaguars Happy Hour around the NFL. Lots to talk about. A lot of drama going on this week. We'll be back.
Do you know someone whose work in the community deserves the limelight? Nominate them at TIAABank.com/community champion so we can celebrate their impact on equity, education, or the environment. Each champion will enjoy a Jaguars game from VIP field seats, see their story told on the big screens, and receive $1,000 towards their cause. Nominate someone before May 6th. Visit TIAABank.com/community champion for details.
Shopping Publix with delivery and curbside pickup powered by Instacart makes getting your groceries more convenient than ever. It's basically the best thing since sliced bread, which you can order from the Publix bakery. You can also get fresh meats and cheeses from the deli, delicious produce, and Publix premium ice cream, all without having to leave your couch or car. Orders are available in as little as 2 hours. Prices vary from in-store. Fees, tips, and taxes may apply. Subject to terms and availability. Visit Publix.com/shop. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure.
Thank you, America, for making Ford F-Series the best-selling trucks for the 45th straight year. And it's no wonder when you have an F-150 with best-in-class payload and Super Duty with best-in-class horsepower, you know that F-Series is not only built for America, they're built for you. Get to your local Ford dealer, check out the entire lineup, and you'll see why the #1 truck in America for 45 straight years can only be Ford F-Series. Best-selling claim based on 1977 to 2021 calendar year sales.
At most sandwich places, asking for more of something is just part of the drill. But what if you never had to ask for more? What if more was just a given? At Daly's, more is what our sandwiches are built on. More meat, more cheese, more veggies, more quality, more taste. All for a price that's anything but more. Sandwiches from Dash, made fresh. Daly's.
Are you suffering from shoulder pain? If you have clicking and popping in the shoulder joint, persistent pain that intensifies with use, an inability to lift your arm over your head, or a tingling, burning sensation in the shoulder, elbow, or wrist, waiting to see a doctor could make your injury worse. Baptist Health and Jacksonville Orthopedic Institute have innovative and effective treatment options available right now to relieve your pain and restore your mobility. Don't wait. Call 904-JOI-2000.
Your family isn't like anyone else's. Your home shouldn't be either. At Dreamfinders Homes, you can build the home of your dreams in one of their 30-plus communities in Northeast Florida. Choose from luxury single-family homes or maintenance-free townhomes from the 300s. Dreamfinders specializes in homes built to fit your lifestyle. To find out more, call 904-431-0006 or visit dreamfindershomes.com.
When Jaguars news breaks, you'll hear about it first on 1010XL. home of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
One of my first meetings really was with our London team and meeting all the folks that are involved with the trip. And so we have our plan in place, and we're ready for the trip, and obviously the game October 30th. And so, it's something you do have to spend some time and think about the travel and getting all your guys and gear and equipment and the technology over there, as an organization. And you got to do it early. And so we've done that. We've put our plan in place, and we're just kind of waiting on the week to get here.
Head coach Doug Peterson discussing the big news this week. The Jaguars will play the Broncos in London this season, coming up October 30th, Halloween weekend in London. Very cool. Welcome back to Jaguars Happy Hour on 1010XL and Jaguars.com. Ashlyn, Sullivan, and Jeff Lageman here with you this week. This is going to be a really cool game. Russell Wilson versus Trevor Lawrence. Talk about an incredible competition for Trevor.
Well, first of all, Trevor had great success there last year.
Yeah, he did.
Big win and beating the Miami Dolphins and the first rookie to ever win over in London. So I think that this is a football team in the Jaguars that organizationally has the experience of going over there, and that helps a lot. For the Denver Broncos, this is going to be a little new because I think is this the first time?
This is their first time.
Yeah, this is their first time.
And that's a
having
real
been
advantage.
Over there. I think that this year, after the completion of this year, with all the games that will be over in Europe, that every team in the league will have been to Europe.
Yes.
At some point after this year.
Mm-hmm.
And the first game of the year, I think, is Tampa and Seattle.
Yep.
And that's in Germany, I guess, and that's going to be a 9:30 game
Craziness.
East Coast. That's a 6:30 game in Seattle.
I can't keep up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's So it's and I like the 9:30 start. Which
love it. I wish every week was
Yeah.
9:30 start.
Yeah, so I like the morning football games. I don't know if I'd like the 6:30 a.m. games for
That's a
the
different
Seattle
story.
Seahawks
Yeah.
fans, but I think it's a great matchup because the Denver Broncos. I mean the way you look at the Denver Broncos now, with them having Russell Wilson, has completely changed. Now you look at them as a contender.
Yeah. No, you do.
I mean, you
It's
really
been a
do.
crazy offseason for them. Yeah.
So I think it's going to be a great matchup. I think it's going to be, and hopefully Trevor takes a big jump this year because you're going to have to play well at the quarterback position to be able to have a chance to beat a Russell Wilson-led football team because he's that good.
Yeah, not to mention he has Nathaniel Hackett, who we're very familiar with. And
He's a whack job.
Yeah, he's so. I was talking to the Broncos broadcast department this morning. We did a podcast about this London game, and I was like, "How much do you love him?" And they're like, "Don't even get me started. Like, you guys are gonna love working with him."
One of the greatest film room segments that I've ever had the opportunity to be a part of was with Nathaniel Hackett when we did the I think it was the RPO stuff, the read option stuff.
Yep.
And he took us on the grease board on all the things that can happen and the abilities that you can have with that stuff. And it was awesome. And I learned so much from him. And if he has, and that's the thing I think that's very unique about Nathaniel Hackett, is that he's got a very unique ability to teach.
Yeah.
And a very easy way of making things understandable, which is all about coaching. That's what you're trying to do, is get players to understand what you're trying to accomplish. And so I think he'll be very successful. I think Russell Wilson, and from what I've read, Russell Wilson loves him. Yeah. And so looking forward to seeing him there, and looking forward to the matchup because I think it's a really good matchup, especially for the people and the fans over there in London.
Yeah, it's they were doing a social media segment with Nathaniel Hackett. You mentioned how good he is about being on the film room and everything, and they got going on him explaining a play. And I swear, because I watch your film rooms and they're fantastic and I learn a lot, he was seriously speaking another language.
He is.
I did not know what he was saying.
He's like a wind-up toy.
He gets going.
As a broadcaster, because you'll always want to ask the right question. And with Nate, it's very rare that you don't ask the right question because he's got a gift, and it's fun to listen to. And he comes from a football family.
Yeah.
Football has been his life, and one of the most disappointing moments I ever had here was when Doug Marrone fired him as the offensive coordinator. I was like, oh, come on, Doug. Come on. It's not
just
his
for
fault.
us, keep him.
Come on.
I know.
You know, so
Tough,
yeah, I like Hackett.
Yes,
I like
very
Hackett.
much so. Let's go around the NFL. A lot going on this week, that's for sure. I want to start with something I saw on Twitter that absolutely cracked me up yesterday. A fan put out about Trevor Lawrence and improving his play, and they said, man, what if he's got this jump pass next season like Patrick Mahomes? Taylor Lewan retweets this, who is with the Titans as of now, and says, I sure as hell hope not.
Well, Taylor Lewan is quite the personality.
He's the best, too.
What's the podcast stuff that he does?
Oh, it's something with what's it called? It's with they're in a bus. Joe, help me out. I can't remember.
They have a couple different guys.
Bussing with the boys.
Bussing with the boys.
Yes.
Yeah, and it does a good job. And so anyway, it's a great response. Because somebody wrote that and he responds to it because obviously the Titans being in the division. So yeah, he's
sure as hell hope not.
he is. When you watch Taylor Lewan play football on game day, he is so overly dramatic.
Yes.
It's unbelievable.
And that's why he has a podcast. It's pretty
And
good for
so,
him.
I mean, he's a natural fit for getting in front of a microphone or in front of a TV camera. I mean, that's he's going to have an easy second career, I can tell you that.
Yes, and let's stick with the Titans because I'm part of the problem because I put this in the rundown and I have to talk about it and we have to talk about it. But I saw it at first, what happened with Ryan Tannehill, and I'm sure if you do not know, he was talking about coaching up his rookie quarterback, and he said, that's not my job to coach him up. We're fighting for a job here, and I'm not here to mentor a young quarterback. I'm here to be the starter for the Titans. Huge backlash.
Mm-hmm.
Is all of a sudden the worst guy in the world. I kind of agree with him. But now I'm like, oh, it's not a big deal. Like, why are people making such a big deal out of this? And now we're talking about it on this show, so I'm part of the problem.
Well, Ryan Tannehill is right. It's not the starting quarterback's job to mentor. That's why they pay coaches. And is it the starting quarterback's job to be a good teammate? Yes. And will you help if asked? Absolutely. But I understand his response. And his response, if you could have said it a different way, he could have probably would have went ahead and said, hey, look, the first job that I need to worry about is getting myself ready to play. Because that's my responsibility. I get paid to be the starting quarterback. I need to get ready to be the starting quarterback. If I can help him along the way while I'm doing all of that in preparation for my responsibility, then great. I mean, it's the way you answer it. I mean, Ryan Tannehill's not a bad guy.
No.
He's not trying to.
But if on Twitter he is, my gosh.
He's not trying to shun a draft pick just because he plays the same position of him and he's worried about this young quarterback coming in and taking his job.
Yeah.
That's not what the response was all about. I think one of the more interesting things that Ryan Tannehill said as in part of this press conference was that he had to get psychological help from the playoff loss that they experienced last year against the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah.
That's a hard admit right there.
It really is.
And for
But man, it was a tough loss.
a starting quarterback in the National Football League to be so forthright and to say, hey, look, I had a really hard time. I was in a dark place. I needed to get help to help get over that loss that we had. And I think he had 3 interceptions in that game or something like that. And the Tennessee Titans ended up losing that football game. And how he talked about how he needed help. And then couple that with the loss of A.J. Brown as wide receiver to the Philadelphia Eagles. And then he talks also about that and how it impacted him. I mean, it's, look, I think the one thing I think that a lot of fans expect out of NFL players is they expect them to be superhuman.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, he should always help out the young player. He should always be a good teammate. Well, he is a good teammate. Nobody's ever said anything bad about Ryan Tannehill, ever. He's been a great teammate. And we also expect players, oh, he's toughen up, cupcake, move forward and get better. Well, I mean, look, he lost a football game, and a lot of it was in part to his performance, and that's a hard thing to kind of bounce back from. So I give Ryan Tannehill a lot of credit for being so honest. And I know that the Tennessee Titans had some discussions about possibly replacing him this year. I root for Tannehill on game days that they're not playing the Jaguars because I like how he handles his business. I always have. He's been a really good pro, and I think he's the type of quarterback that you want to see win.
Yeah, totally agree. He's gone through a lot in his career, a lot of stops along the way, and kind of the ultimate success story, making it to the Titans and now having so much success. Because there were times growing up in South Florida with the Dolphins, I was like, this guy is never going to make it. And now look at him now.
Yeah, that's it. I like him. I think that, put it this way, if I'm John Robinson, who's the general manager of the Tennessee Titans, I like my quarterback, Ryan Tannehill. I don't love him.
Yeah.
I like him, and I love him personally. But professionally, I still want to find a way to find a franchise guy.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, he's not the Mahomes. He's not the guy that's going to play for another 10 years.
But you still got to appreciate what he is and what he does for your franchise.
For sure.
But at the end of the day, as a general manager, you're tasked with finding a franchise-type solution. And Ryan Tannehill, in my opinion, is not that, but I appreciate him.
Yeah, probably another, 2 years, and then you go and try to find the next step.
Shoot, you're looking right now.
Right now?
I mean, you're always
Ryan.
looking. You never stop looking. Now, you might not expend the resources right now as far as the high-end resources, but you're looking right now. Put it this way, the draft pick that they have as a quarterback, they didn't draft him with the expectation, well, he's just going to be a backup practice squad
Just a guy, yeah.
They look, hey, look, he's got a chance, and hopefully he can develop and be a franchise guy and replace Ryan Tannehill.
Yep, one day. Speaking of quarterbacks, this is craziness. Where the heck is Baker Mayfield going to play this year?
Great question. I still believe that Seattle would be a great place for him to end up. Seattle's system has always kind of been built around the foundation of a running game. And I think that Baker Mayfield is that type of quarterback. And that's not to criticize him, but it's to be realistic.
Yeah.
And that and the other thing, too, Baker Mayfield last year, what I love about him, he played hurt the entire year. And toughness and availability are always two traits at the quarterback position that you want to have. And Seattle has a need. They currently have one quarterback under contract, Geno Smith, for I think with incentives somewhere around $7 million, which is not that cost prohibitive to keep you from going out and getting a Baker Mayfield. So I think Baker Mayfield would be a great guy to put into that Seattle system until they can find maybe their guy, and maybe Baker Mayfield does or can develop into that guy. I don't know that, but I wouldn't be happy if I was Seattle with where I'm at right now.
No, it's not good enough. You need another guy.
Carolina's got a draft pick. They got Sam Darnold, who they gave up draft picks for last year and probably regret it right now. I don't know if that would happen because your Sam Darnold has guaranteed money for this year.
Yeah.
You can't let him go. If you do, you still got to pay him. So the reality is that Seattle's not going to trade for him.
No. And they're probably just letting him sit.
Yeah.
Keep on sitting.
So maybe Seattle just says, hey, look, we'll just be patient and we'll wait until we can just get him for free.
That kind of seems because there was a lot of talk, especially early on in the draft. You're thinking, is this the week? And then everything kind of settled. And
When I say free, I mean not like free, like they're not going to pay.
Not like a Wendy's chicken.
They don't want to give up draft picks to get them.
I get that.
So,
And then the Browns are a whole nother story.
Yeah, that's
It's weird. It's
the
really
Desean
odd.
Watson thing.
Good luck predicting that.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen there, but here's one thing to consider too, though. The way the NFL has instituted the the punishment system.
Yeah.
It's changed in recent years. So the person that determines what the punishment is going to be is a person that now is jointly paid by the NFL Players Association and the NFL.
What a coincidence.
So where in the past it's kind of been all commissioner-based.
Yeah.
So now that person is, what's the right way to say it, less inclined to be as harsh, maybe, per se, just because half of that check's coming from the NFLPA, maybe.
You get it.
But I think that's going to be an interesting watch, what happens there. And then the commissioner does have the ability to modify what that person decides. It's kind of a tricky language. I was reading about that just recently. And the
I'm
commissioner
confused just listening to it.
Yeah. It'll be an interesting watch. We'll just put it that way. For Desean Watson, is he going to play this year? Is he going to be suspended? How is the fan? Are they going to embrace him in Cleveland? I don't know.
I think he's going to play.
I don't know. It's going to be crazy.
It's really
And here's the
weird.
thing. When he goes to other cities, they're going to have chants.
Oh, yeah.
Come,
Not
come,
good ones.
Come get a massage, Desean.
You think that Jacksonville was crazy? Just buckle up for that.
Wait till he has to go to Philly.
Oh, God. I'm scared for him. Thank you for tuning in to Jaguars Happy Hour. Jeff Lageman and Ashlyn Sullivan here with you. Stay with us on 1010XL. Thank you for tuning in to Jaguars.com. Not as busy of a week as Jaguars.com as it was last week, but we're hanging in there, so stay with us the rest of the offseason. Rookie minicamp next week. We'll have all your coverage. Stay with us for next week.